Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome to the channel if you're new. If you're not new, thanks for coming back to this Wealth Building channel. It's also a career channel because that's how you make some of your wealth, from career. Not everybody, but a lot of us. So today we're going to talk about one of our career videos, okay? This is also an interview question, which I've had before, so I'm not sure how I'm going to publish it, but I have had this question as an interview question on if you have a problem, how would you solve it? And the thing is you want to be able to solve this problem without going to your supervisor. That's what this interview question is. It's testing you on to see your problem solving skills. You can use this for the interview. You can use this in real life. You can apply it to your career, and maybe you can pull some stuff out of it to use in like real life outside of your career, like your personal life. So anyway, we're going to go on and talk about this. How to deliver bad news. Okay, so I'm going to relate it to a career since this is a career channel. So let's just say this happens to me in real life and I have an interview question, and this is how I normally handle this. So somebody comes up to me and says, how would you handle this problem? The website crashed this morning. We lost a bid to a competitor. We have a problem with this project. And these kind of things really do happen in my career life anyway. And most of these problems are brought to our managers and we tell them what's wrong. But however, if you get this interview question, you do not want to say, I'm going to my manager. You want to try and solve the problem yourself. And it makes sense that you want to run to your boss and tell them, what's going on. And you normally, and sometimes you might have to, if the whole system shuts down and you have a crash, you're going to have to go to your supervisor. You're not going to be able to figure that out before you go to a supervisor. But what you do want to do is try and get some things in order before you do run to your supervisor. If you cannot solve the problem on your own quickly. Before you lose your calm and try to manage it out on your own, here's what you need to know. And you need to get these conversations an edible part of your career. You need to get through the ability to gracefully handle and explain issues to people in positions of power. As a new person, if you are new on your team, or if you're old really, you're going to have to admit something's going wrong and you have failed to meet an expectation or something. And it might not even be your fault, It might be somebody else's fault. It might just be a technology issue. Effective communication is important, and we're going to go over some 4 steps that will help you into addressing these things. Because you want it to benefit you, but you also want it to benefit the team and the organization you're working for. You want to show people how you respond in moments of crisis. You want to improve collaboration and keep people accountable. And on a personal level, you want to make a positive impression. You want to maintain a good reputation and build a foundation of trust. When you go to your manager or higher powers in your organization, you want to make sure that you have it together. You don't want to just run up there in a panic and tell them that the whole system crashed this morning. This is not exactly what you want to do. Before you approach your manager, you want to take some time to gather your thoughts. You want to talk to maybe some other experts first, find out what happened, why this happened, why we lost the bid to a competitor, why we have a problem with this project. For whatever reason, the problem could be money, it could be resources, it could be a competitor didn't want to help out anymore, it could be something, anything, right? This could also happen in your real life, but we're not going to talk about real life on this channel. We're going to talk about career stuff because this is a wealth building channel and a career. So I'm not going to, you can do that on your own and use these things to apply in your personal life. That's what I should say, personal life. All right, so take some time to gather your thoughts. Practice summarizing the problem in a couple sentences. You want to think about what happened. You want to think about what happened, when happened, who was affected, or who will be affected. And it could be your customers, it could be your team, it could be your other teams, your business, your stakeholders. You want to be clear about all these details, and you don't want to go into a 3-hour conversation here. You want to have it in like a really good 2 to 3 sentences. For example, let's say your gaming platform crashed and you're assigned the terrible task of telling your boss. We've run into a problem on the website. It began at 9 a.m. this morning. Some customers can't log into their accounts to play their games. This impacts the existing customers, new users may be interested in registering, and also the customer service team. That's 2 or 3 sentences, breaks it down basically. You want to avoid the temptation to go into detail about why it happened and let your emotions get out of control here. The goal is to state the problem so you can move on to your next important part of the conversation, which is going into the impact of the problem, and the step 3, which is how you're going to solve it. So part 1 is just stating the issue. Step 2 is describing the impact. For example, for each stakeholder you identify, which is like your customers, new registers, whatever, you want to list out the impact that this problem is having on each one of them and the time frame in which you expect it to take place. Time frames can significantly change the scale of the impact. It can affect how you prioritize the issue. In your explanation to your boss, you can aim to answer the following questions. So, will this problem financially hurt the company? Will it? That's something important. That's going to be their main top concern. Has it already? Will the customers be unhappy with their experience? Are they going to leave? Are we going to lose customers? Are they currently? Have the employees lost trust and morale in this company? How long is this going on before you actually identified there was a problem? If you're dealing with a problem that hasn't yet had a tangible impact on the stakeholders, when will it start? How much time do you have to solve this problem before it starts impacting your customers? When you bring the problem to your boss, you want to start with the bad news, the greatest impact, and end with the less bad news, because that's the last thing they're going to hear. And it's the least impact, that's the last thing they're going to hear, and it will put a positive note on the end. Put yourself in your manager's shoes to try to determine which stakeholders will concern them most. For instance, sticking with the initial example, if you expect that your dissatisfied customers have a negative impact on the reputation of the company, and you're aware that their manager's greatest concern is going to be the impact is twofold, which means we could lose trust in our product, they could lose trust in our product, we could lose daily streaks of the game, which could affect the overall user experience. Some people might not come back and try and register because they feel like, oh my God, these people that have a horrible website. Continue explaining how this problem is impacting employees internally. This customer issue has also been affected. Our customer service teams are being flooded with requests. And the team has informed us they're getting twice the number of complaints. So finally, let your manager know how serious the problem is and when it needs to be solved by. This is a high priority issue and it needs to be addressed by the end of today or tomorrow. It's 1 or 2 sentences, okay? You might break down the impact more if they continue, but basically you want to just briefly state, and if they start asking questions more, then you go into detail as to why. The next thing you want to do is you want to propose a solution. You want to have a clearly laid out, these are all things you need to do before you go into your boss, by the way. You have clearly laid out the issue, the impacts. It's time to focus on the solution. This is a pivotal point in the conversation because you should aim to switch from the past and current events to what happens in the future. This will make you look like a leader when you come up with a solution and not just hand a manager a bunch of problems. You always want to try to come to them with a solution. And when you get an interview question like this, which I have had more than once, by the way, This is what you want to say. You want to come up with all these things that I'm telling you right here, basically in a shorter version in an interview. You don't want to go on for 10 minutes about this one thing, but right now we are. You want to keep your interview question 1 to 2 minutes. So you have to break this down. Maybe you can just break it down by these steps that I'm giving you here. You want to come in there with a solution. You need to go into the conversation with 1 or 2 solutions in mind, how they're going to work, any potential risk associated. You want to try and talk to other people on your team to find out some solutions before you go in there and tell your manager. You want to show the manager you're a problem solver with the capability to think on your feet. It demonstrates your accountability and your ability to move forward after experiencing a setback rather than dwelling on what's wrong and passing the blame. And this goes for real life, your personal life as well. You want to start by explaining any action you've taken to address the issue. I submitted an urgent ticket, investigated the issue. The team led informed me there are 2 developers working on it. So you got people already working on this issue and they should have it done by 2 p.m. This shows great leadership. The team plans to conduct a thorough investigation of what triggered the issue. And over the next 3 days, all of the customer service issues should be resolved. You want to make sure you reassure your manager by showing them you prepared for the worst case scenario. In case this issue is not fixed by 2 p.m. today, we're working to prepare a website that pops up that notifies the users of a technical issue so they're not caught off guard. We want to prepare a backup email blast for all registered users to let them know about the issue, apologize for the error, and help minimize immediate damage to the users. So you want to let your boss know how you will avoid similar situations in the future. We'll be reviewing these timelines, plan on setting up calls over the next couple of days to review future potential risk. Ask for any feedback on the solution. What do you think about the plan? While this is an ideal scenario, it is important to acknowledge that you need to have clear strategy on how to solve the problem. If you aren't able to access all the information you need, then it must be executed by an entirely different person or department. If it is, you need to aim to approach your boss with as many details as possible if you cannot solve it in your own department. If you have to go outside your department to get assistance, then you want to make sure you tell your boss that. Even if it makes you look bad that you need outside assistance. You need to be honest, tell them what you've done, tell them what's happened, and it may not even be your fault, it just might be what's happened. You need to execute the solution and get back to them with more details, give them feedback and advice on how to navigate this situation. You want to be a leader in this and execute a plan. You don't want to go in there with a whole bunch of problems. You want to try and come up with a solution and a plan to ensure this conversation ends with next steps. If your manager approves the solution, you might even start doing some of it ahead of time if you know it's not going to be an issue, like setting up a website and all that kind of stuff. Begin to take action. If it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to set up a website and say, we're technical issues or whatever, those kinds of things you can do ahead of time without your supervisor approving it. So you should be able to leave a meeting with a clear idea of who and what and when all this will happen. As you wrap up the conversation, show you're committed. You're going to take accountability in an issue and avoid this issue in the future. Thank you for your input. I'm going to get started on this as soon as possible, and I will keep you informed over the next 2 days to make sure, to keep you updated on what's going on. Following the framework will not just help you with difficult conversations with your manager, it's going to show your demonstration ability to think strategically, to lead, and be productive in a discussion. So make sure that when you consider how a problem affects you, your team, your colleagues, the business, the organization, the solution will be easier to find. So all of these things, these 4 things is what you want to say on an interview if you get this question. How would you deliver bad news to your boss? I would introduce the problem. I would sit down and have all this together. I would come up with introduce the problem. I would write it all out first. Introduce the problem. I would make sure I have everything described, the impacts written down. All of these would be in 1 to 2 sentences. I would describe the impacts, the risk, who's affected. I would come up with a solution and propose it to her, and then I would execute the plan. So that's how you would answer that interview question, how to deliver bad news. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.